Chapter 3. It was nearly midnight. In their warm living room, the two old people and their son sat and talked about the soldiers' stories.
"India is a wonderful country," Mr. White said. "What exciting stories. It was a good evening."
Mrs. White stood up to take some things into the kitchen, but she stopped and listened to Herbert and his father. "Yes," Herbert said, "Morris told some interesting stories, but of course some of them weren't true."
"Oh, Herbert,"
Mrs. White said. "Well, Mother, that story about the monkey's paw wasn't true. A dirty little monkey's paw isn't magic, but it was a good story." And Herbert smiled.
"Well, I think you're right, Herbert," his mother said. "I don't know," Mr. White said quietly. "Perhaps the story was true. Strange things can happen sometimes."
Mrs. White looked at her husband.
"Did you give some money to Tom Morris for that paw?" she asked. "We don't have money to give away for nothing."
Mrs. White was angry now.
"Well, yes," her husband answered. "I did, but not much. And at first he didn't want to take it. He wanted the monkey's paw."
"Well, he can't have it," Herbert laughed. "It's our paw now, and we're going to be rich and happy. Come on, Father, make a wish." Old Mr. White took the paw from his pocket.
"Okay, Herbert, but what am I going to ask for? I have everything. You, your mother. What do I need?"
"Money, of course," Herbert answered quickly. "We need money. You're always thinking about money. That's because we haven't got very much of it. With money, you can pay for this house. It can be your house. Go on, Father. Wish for £30,000. Herbert stopped talking, and his old father thought for a minute. The room was quiet, and they could hear the rain on the windows. Then Mr. White took the monkey's paw in his right hand. He was afraid, but he looked at his wife and she smiled at him.
"Go on," she said.
Slowly and carefully, Mr. White said,
"I wish for £30,000.
Suddenly, he gave a cry, and Mrs. White and Herbert ran to him. "What's the matter, Father?" Herbert asked.
"It moved,"
Mr. White cried.
"The monkey's paw. It moved."
They looked at the paw. It was now on the floor and not in the old man's hand. The family watched it, and they waited, but it did not move again. So the little family sat down again and they waited. Nothing happened. The noise of the rain on the windows was worse now, and their little living room did not feel nice and warm. Mrs. White said,
"It's cold. Let's go to bed."
Mr. White did not answer, and in the end Herbert said, "Well, there's no money, Father. Your friend's story wasn't true." But Mr. White did not answer. He sat quietly and said nothing. After some time, Mrs. White said to her husband,
"Are you okay?" "Yes, yes," the old man answered. "But for a minute or two I was afraid."
"Well, we needed that money," Mrs. White said,
"but we aren't going to get it. I'm tired. I'm going to bed."
After Mrs. White went to bed, the two men sat and smoked for some time. Then Herbert said, "Well, Father, I'm going to bed too. Perhaps the money is in a bag under your bed. Good night, Father." And Herbert laughed and went out of the room. Old Mr. White sat in the cold living room for a long time. The candle died, and it was dark. Suddenly, the old man saw a face at the window. Quickly, he looked again, but there was nothing there. He felt afraid. Slowly, he stood up and left the cold, dark room.